Welcome to the Adventure Mechanics. I'm Chandler.
I'm Devin.
And I'm Tom.
And today we'll be talking about Far Lone Sails. Far Lone Sails is an atmospheric adventure game that was released in 2018, but it started development in 2015 as a student project at the Zurich University of Arts by project lead Don Schmacher. I am probably butchering that name, I apologize. After college, they formed the company Acomotive, and they were in 2017, and obviously the game was released in 2018. After this one, they made a side sequel to it that we won't be touching on, but there are multiple entries to this game. We're just talking about Far Lone Sails. Yeah, let's talk about mechanics, though. Yeah, you drive this, I guess, sail this vessel, land vessel, big wheel.
You sail a locomotive, kind of.
Ish, yeah.
That's like the closest thing I can think of.
Yeah, you basically manage this vessel going across a abandoned environment.
Kind of post-apocalyptic.
Yeah, very much post-collapse. You seem to be the last survivor, or one of the last people out on this land that is either receding or whatever. Kind of go into that with the story. But to get to the coastline, which is your goal, spoiler alert, you have to manage your ship by turning stuff that you find in the environment into fuel, and then managing the vessel that you are using to get there. I know that sounds a little vague, but that's the main loop of the game, basically.
For those of you that haven't seen the artwork, if you need like a visualization, you're essentially driving. The closest thing I can think of is it's kind of like a locomotive. It's got big wheels. You have to power it with fuel, but it has sails that you can deploy on the top. So it's like a locomotive and a sailboat had a baby. It's very unique.
Yes. It's very much one of the few characters, which is weird to say about a vehicle, but the vehicle is a character in this game that you do grow attached to. At least I did.
Definitely.
I don't know about everybody else, but I certainly grew fond of either breaking it or upgrading it. More so upgrading it.
Mm-hmm.
And taking good care of it, because it's a good boy. / girl. Not really sure.
/ just machine.
The Okomotive is really your only friend in this desolate world.
Oh, you burnt the radio, I can tell.
Maybe.
But yeah, that's kind of the main mechanics of the game. You can kind of tell by how vague we are being with the story that there's nothing written down in the story unless you look at the art book that came out with the game. But the story is kind of like your dad was one of the two developer brothers of the Acomotive, which is the train boat that you're piloting. And at the beginning of the game, you are burying them. And then you set off on your boat. And then as you navigate through, you end up at your uncle's giant walker thing. And he's buried in his giant walker thing. And yeah, there's a lot more to it, but it's all environmental storytelling. And I can't really give a good description of what the story that develops is, besides the world went into an ecological collapse of some sort, and you are so far inland that you can't make it out to the sea without doing a rather treacherous journey, but you have to because there's nothing left inland for you. That's kind of like the Cliff Notes story that I got from it. I don't know if anybody else got more out of it, but you're the daughter of the inventor of the giant ship. Ecological collapse happened, and you got to get to the ocean.
I think that sums it up pretty well.
Yeah, everything is, the storytelling is very environmental, as you mentioned. And so kind of the order of events and, what happened when in the past and, what Lone, the character you're playing, what her motivations are. That's kind of left up to the player to kind of decide for themselves. But the broad strokes are just as you said. There was some kind of ecological collapse. Lone is burying her father and crossing the land towards the sea, where there may or may not be more people, survivors of this environmental catastrophe that happened.
Okay, so at the very end of the game, as you're lighting the fire at the edge of the ocean, you do hear a ship horn, which one of the major allegories of this game is seeing massive fucking ships. Not just land ships, but massive fucking ships and submarines and all sorts of industry. Yeah, you do hear a ship horn at the very end, so make of that what you will.
Someone is alive.
Yeah, they leave a lot to the imagination, I think, which I think is a good thing for like this story of game.
And I've got to say, like, you know, you don't, even if you don't get the digital art book to get all the little, like, you know, details of the story. In fact, I would encourage you not to do that and just jump into the game directly and play it, because allowing a story to sort of be told to you in an organic way via exclusively art and visuals and ambiance is a really cool experience, something that you're not going to experience with a lot of other games. It's pretty unique, and it's kind of fun to just sort of be a detective trying, you know, like a little bit trying to figure out what happened, what's going on, why am I doing this, why do I have this machine? Like, those questions leave a lot of intrigue that is, I think, part of the magic of this game.
Yeah, and couple that with the soundtrack, which is used for very, very good effect.
Yes, it is.
Throughout the entire journey, because the journey's only, hour and a half, maybe 3 if you really just soak everything in.
I think I probably took 3 hours or so to play it, but I was kind of taking my time and doing chunks here and there. So
yeah, I think my first playthrough was close to 2.5 hours, but I was looking at the art design and the environments and noticing all the graves at different points scattered around and wondering at the world.
Yeah,
but you could certainly get through it a lot quicker. I also had trouble on a couple puzzles because I'm dumb.
I mean, fair. When I was watching you play, there were a couple of the puzzles that you struggled with that I went through relatively quick, but on the flip side, there were a couple specific puzzles in the game that you breezed through that first time through, I really just scratched my head for an embarrassingly long amount of time.
Yeah, one of them, I remember you were like, oh wow, you really did it first try. And I was like, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, this is coming from the guy who absolutely mangled Shivers, so, make of that what
true.
You will.
Yeah, and this is certainly not like, Myst level puzzles, right? Like,
no, I'm bad at puzzle games, and I found this game to be incredibly relaxing and very nice to play. The puzzles are just challenging enough to kind of be like, oh, I had to think about that, without being like painful.
Yeah, it's very chill, like very chill.
Yeah.
And usually, I think both of the puzzles I really struggled on, I was overthinking it. So if I just stopped to be like, simplest thing from point A to point B, I would have gotten it.
Like a couple times you have to use your land ship as a battering ram. Every time that one of those moments came up, I always hesitated and was like, no, do I do something else first? Because you have to repair the ship. And maybe it's just me being a cheap ass, but I didn't want to spend the time fixing the ship.
No, yeah, the few times that you have to do that, it feels really precarious, where it's like, well, why would I slam my ship into this door when I feel like there's something else I should be able to do?
Yep.
Like, why would I destroy my only way forward? Like, that seems counterintuitive, which is maybe overthinking it, but...
And as stated before, you do bond with it, so you kind of get to this point where you're like, the only thing I can think of involves destroying my baby. I don't want to. I've taken such good care of it. It's in perfect health, and I want to keep it that way.
Why would I do this? Or like, anyway, it's like, I don't want to be stranded out here in the middle of nowhere.
Right? Yeah, I worked hard on this, and throughout the game, you will have damage happen to your ship, either scripted through the story, or due to your own incompetence of hitting walls or something.
And you can destroy the ship.
Not that I ever did that. You can? I never pushed it that hard, but...
Oh, you can. You can die. I don't know if I should say a spoiler, but there's a particular part of the game where the environment is rather dangerous, and if you take your time to like mill around and see what's going on, you will die.
Is that right at the end?
Very close to the end, yeah.
Yeah, that was the one that I too was looking at and going, wow, this is so beautiful. Like, whoa. And then, oh, okay. Well, I guess I'm not admiring the scenery when I reload here.
I took too much time and I died.
Yeah, same. I did the same thing. I was just like in awe of like how beautiful it looked and like just how wonderful like this whole set piece was. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then I died and I was like, oh, well, I guess I should have seen that coming.
The game for almost the entire playthrough does not really push you to go fast. The entire thing is kind of like, actually, if anything, going fast is the most dangerous way that you can proceed.
Yeah.
And yeah, at the end, it is very much like, no, all the skills that you've been building of trying to figure out how to keep this thing running and running fast and hard, you got to use them all. There is a time limit. It totally, yeah, it kind of felt heroic. You know, I was like managing the machine and running around all its different components and you know, keeping things cool and full of fuel and like, oh, I wanted to keep going. I was like, this is so awesome.
Well, so that was the second environmental disaster that you go through. Earlier in the game, there's also a smaller one, but it's the only other time I can think of that the game actually pressures you in a major sense outside of a hailstorm to keep moving.
The hailstorm is what killed me. So.
Oh, that wasn't what killed me.
Yeah, I died in the hailstorm.
Oh, it was the thing. It was the thing at the very end.
I learned my lesson from the hailstorm.
Oh,
I was fine at the end.
Oh, that's funny because I played it right before we started recording, and I was like, okay, I count 2 environmental disasters, and the hailstorm wasn't on my environmental disaster. Maybe that's showing where we live, but
it can be.
Yeah, you can definitely be lethal if you get hit by them. But the first one I thought of was the tornado when your ship rolls down the hill without you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I'm like, I'm pretty sure you could die here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was scary.
I'm sure.
I was very scared. I was like, oh no.
Like I said, I had learned my lesson from the hailstorm. The game was so chill leading up to that I was kind of like, well, I'll just kind of hang out and enjoy it because there's some cool ambiance happening for that, and like the music is building, and so I was like not in a hurry, thinking like this game is very relaxed. It's not gonna like kill me. Yeah, it is.
Nope. It's a very atmospheric game, but sometimes the atmosphere will just straight up kill you, which is very surprising when it does happen.
And to be clear, it's not a roguelike. If you die, it just takes you back to a checkpoint. So it was not a big deal. I was very scared I had screwed up my run because I was not trying to. I was trying to play it right, but it was fine. So again, there's really low pressure with this game. It's a really great game to relax to, even if you do die.
Yeah, like the penalty for death is pretty much nothing except for going all the way back to a checkpoint, which, to be fair, is the same penalty as if you quit in the middle of the game. So that's not really a penalty in my mind.
No. This is really truly trying to tell a story and let you experience the game. The ambiance is the point, and so it's not trying to make it a super challenging thing.
And it is glorious because of the... as we've been talking about it before the episode, but yeah, this game has vibes.
Yes, it does.
This is the vibes game.
It's such a vibes game.
Oh, so good.
There's really great moments in it. I know we've kind of given some hints at what happens during the story, but when you experience the moments, they really do hit you in a different way. Like, I can still remember, like, the first time kicking on the giant walker, and that was a glorious moment.
Yes.
Immediately marred. So funny. I couldn't help but like cackle when that happened. Yeah, it's really good.
It feels really big too. I don't know if you guys got that impression, but it's just the entire game feels big.
Yeah.
I think that's probably partly because your character is so tiny, but like you're interfacing with these huge machines, and I don't know. That's part of the vibe, I feel like.
When you first encounter the Akamotive, which is the land ship that you'll be piloting throughout the game, it feels big by itself. And it only gets bigger from there.
Yep.
Which is really weird to say, but that's how the game starts. It starts with something big and then gets grander.
Your character is absolutely teeny tiny in this game, and there's not a huge amount of detail. That's not the point. That's why Chandler said that the Akamotive really is kind of the character in a way. It's almost more like your job is to care for the main character of the game in some ways. I don't know.
Yeah, I could see that. Like even in like the press stuff for this game, the main part of it is the Akamotive itself. To the point of they named the company after this fictional land ship.
It's clear that the creator of this game has a love affair with machines.
Yeah. Yeah, and it really shows in pretty much all of these larger, grandiose settlements that you come across.
Yep.
I guess they're not really settlements, they're like factories, and one's actually a show floor, which is really weird. But yeah, like, this game is really good. But that being said, what did you guys think of the music in it? Not just the ambiance, but like the music specifically.
Love it.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say other than it's phenomenal. It's so good. It's probably 30 or 40% of why this game felt so good to play.
Yeah. It adds so much to the scene. Like much like, a good film where it's like not standing out, but it adds so much to
Yes, it's the support
what you're
structure
seeing.
that holds the game up and really showcases what you're playing.
Yeah, it helps with, because everything's like like we mentioned, the player character Lone is so small compared to all these big machines. It's really the art direction and the music that are helping you as the player know what emotions are being conveyed.
Yes.
And the music is just like, I mean, the music's kind of cheating in that way because music is so good at conveying emotion. Within like a couple of chords, you're like, all right, I know I need to be sad right now. But it's great. It just does a good job without like being, like kind of overtaking everything else in the scene.
Yeah.
It's just great. It's phenomenal.
You aren't going to find, the next big pop song in this thing, but like the ambiance of the music is timed perfectly with the pacing of the game, and I believe it's dynamic in the regard. Yeah, no, it is dynamic. If you slow down, the music will change. If you speed up, the music changes. Based on what's happening, it's all seamless and dynamic, and makes it feel very cinematic.
Yeah, even to the point of huddling in that hailstorm underneath one of the awnings or shelters that are out in the world.
Assuming you're smart enough to make it there.
Yeah. I mean, you can die before that, but it's gonna be a little bit harder. But yeah, like when you're huddling out there, you hear the piano like staccato of the hail, and it's very diegetic.
Yeah.
I don't know if you two noticed that, but that was like the real standout moment for me.
Yeah.
Like they didn't include a sound effect for it; they did it in the music.
Use the music. Yeah, same with like all the other disasters as well. Like it's really the music that's giving you the sense of this thing, as opposed to environmental sounds.
When you're playing this game, you kind of have this like I don't know how many people worked on this game, but it's a lot of the time you'll play a game and one particular aspect will really stand out. It'll be like, oh, excellent storytelling, or it'll be excellent art, or excellent music. With this game, you're like, man, the art is incredible. And then you start playing and you hear the music and you're like, oh, the soundtrack's so good. The person that made this game must have really put a lot of energy into like the soundtrack. That's obvious. And then the story starts happening and you're like, all right, how many talents did the creator of this game have? This is starting to be kind of unfair.
I mean,
because they're all equal.
To be fair, this was a student project from college, so I'm gonna hazard a guess and say that it wasn't just one person making it, especially if it was a game design course. A lot of times when you're doing that, you're gonna team up with other people in the group or other people in the class, and then maybe make the games either over a semester or over a year or something like that. So you're gonna
Sure, but like, I guess my point is, when you're designing a game, to design a game that props up the music and the art, and like, because when I say it's propped up, it's not like the art is good. It's like the game mechanics and the art are like completely linked. Like they're necessary for each other. So it's very clear that they were that way from the beginning, And the same with like the music and the gameplay, and it's not like someone had a really cool idea for a game and then hired someone who's good at music. It feels like it all happened at the same time. I don't know if I'm explaining that well, but it
kind
doesn't.
Like a lightning in a bottle sort of thing.
Yeah. There's not one thing that stands out above the rest. They all stand out.
Fair enough. Although, if I were to nitpick, and this is definitely picking the smallest of nits, mechanically there's not a lot going on in this game. It has
That's true.
Light puzzles and light ship management. It's not even to the scale of any of the like space ship management games, right? Or any other ship management games where you have to be more concerned about crew management, ship management, fuel management, and all those. Like, yes, you do have fuel, but there's always going to be that little bit of flotsam, which is what the fuel is turned into, amusingly enough, in the ship, at least according to the art book. It turns whatever you put into it into flotsam, which powers the vessel. But there's always that little bit of junk that you can throw into your engine when you're running low on stuff, even if you don't pick up everything.
I ran primarily on junk.
I collected junk.
I had some junk collected. I would put some stuff in the bedroom, the things that I thought were cool. I was like, I'm going to keep this. Maybe it's a story thing. And then
that's what I did. I was like, oh, this could be important for the story later, and I just like start throwing things into the bedroom until you couldn't get in the bedroom anymore. It was definitely like a little hoarder's room.
Totally. I was doing the same thing. There was a huge amount of stuff in there. And then the like big fuel tanks, the like proper fuel, I was like, well, I'm going to hoard this because I don't know what if there's a section of the game where I won't have fuel and I need a large reserve. So I'd save that up. And then anything that was kind of crap, I just was like, yep, into the reactor or whatever immediately. So
you're becoming flotsam.
Yep. And I ended the game with an absurd amount of fuel, so I clearly didn't need to do that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the point I'm getting at. Like, there was more that you could do with this game mechanically. Like, challenge the player to do better fuel management. Now, I haven't done a burn everything as soon as you get it run, but I'm pretty confident that you could technically survive this game if you put everything into your tank as soon as you got it.
I think that's right.
Which is just brilliant design, because somebody's going to be doing that and driving really poorly. But the game isn't going to actively punish you for doing that.
No.
And mechanically, I think you could do a lot more with it, because you don't really deal with verticality in this game except for the occasional journey out to unblock your way for your vessel. It's a very horizontal, go to the right game.
Yep.
And maybe the sequel does a little bit more with it, but that's not very mechanically busy, so that kind of opens up integrating the other areas like the amazing artwork, the amazing music, the diegetic music with what's happening in the scene. It kind of allows that space to tie it all together, and I feel like that was a pretty good decision to make for this game. Oh god, I just turned that nitpick into a praise for it. Crap. Quick, somebody else nitpick.
I definitely wanted more to do with like the machine, in the regard that I wish at the end of the game there was some kind of like challenges thing. I'd love to have like a fuel efficiency challenge and a racing challenge and a I just wanted to keep driving the machine, which I think does say a lot about how much fun the machine is to drive. Like, it's really fun. Imagine the worst designed machine in the whole world where all of the controls, like go, fill up, stop, are in separate rooms. So your character has to frantically run about the ship to work it. It's kind of clear that, like, I would imagine in the lore, this thing was originally designed to be run by multiple people. So when you're running it by yourself, it's frantic because you're having to dart back and forth to all the different mechanics of the thing. Keep the thing fueled, keep the thing cool, keep the speed up, release the steam so it doesn't explode, which is a thing you can do.
Yep.
Put out fires, if the thing does get damaged, and all this stuff. There's so many things you got to constantly doing. There's an elevator, so there's like needless complexity to operate the machine. But that's the beauty of it. It's hard. And so when you get it working and you get the rhythm down and you can just keep this thing trucking at high speed and the music is going, oh my God, it's freaking glorious. It's so much fun. And so when the game ended, I was just like, oh, I'm getting good at this. I want more.
Yeah, they didn't really do a whole lot of those sort of things. Like they did include achievements like over 9,000 because it does have an odometer on it, so you have to take it over 9,000 whatever units it is. It's probably in kilometers, but whatever, or meters. But yeah, like they hinted at it, and I think it would be a fun thing to kind of expand upon this. But I can definitely see as missing the forest for the trees sort of things happening if you focus too much on the ship itself, because then you might end up with something like Barotrauma, which is more of a dark comedy sort of thing, dark comedy horror if you play it multiplayer, which is very much ship focused. But yeah, this is much more mellow than Barotrauma is, for obvious reasons.
Yeah, the ship mechanics it's a fun thing to do while you watch beautiful landscapes roll by and experience, that's the word I was looking for, experience the story that's being told by the artwork that you're passing as you travel. But they did a really good job at it, so it's really fun.
Yeah, like who knew going through an apocalypse where the only thing left is basically this is going to sound really silly because of the water theming of it, but the flotsam and jetsam of our civilization, of the civilization that you were part of without any people in it. It's still very pretty. It's like, okay, this is all over, but this is still kind of a fun road trip for what it is.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just me being a little bizarre about it, but yeah.
No, I agree.
Well, cool. Yeah. Any other thoughts that we had on this particular game? Aside from very good art direction, very good music. Mechanics could use a little work or little additions, but
the biggest criticism I have for the game is that it just isn't long enough. I want to keep going. And that's a good criticism to have for a game. If it ends and you're like, oh man, I'm still jonesing, I want more, then they did a good job. Doesn't mean that having a little bit more wouldn't be a bad thing. I mean, that would be great. But yeah, they did a really great job. It's an easy, quick play, and it's the kind of thing you could feasibly go back and play again if you wanted to, because you can play through it in a single sitting.
Yep.
So, highly recommend picking it up and trying it out. There's really no harm in doing it. There's no big commitment to it, and there's a sequel which I already own. I just haven't played yet. I'm very excited about it.
Has anybody played the sequel? I know I talked about it, but
I have not played the sequel yet.
I intended to play it before we did this podcast, but then life happened and I didn't do that. So that just means I have something to look forward to.
Yeah, life tends to do that, unfortunately. Getting in the way of playing games.
Maybe that means we'll have a sequel on this exact episode then. Yeah?
That could happen.
Although we said that about Subnautica, and we have yet to play that one too. So,
Fair.
Anyway, Okay, well, I think we can call it here. Why don't we do some plugs?
I will. Again, I've been Tom, and I have a YouTube channel called Vintage and Voltage, where I build cars and trucks and do all kinds of very mechanical things, which might be a pretty big hint as to why I enjoyed this game so much. And I've got a pretty exciting project going right now, so come check it out.
How about you, Devin?
Well, I don't really have an active internet presence at the moment, but you can find me on Twitter or X or whatever we're calling it now.
It's Twitter.
Or
Twitter.
On Blue Sky. I'm Mereward, Merewyrd. But like I said, I'm not really active there or anything at present. You know, life and all that.
Fair enough. Yeah, and I've been Chandler. I'm on various social media in various capacities. You can track whatever game I'm working on at the moment through either the side quests here or on my itch.io page, which is itch.io/JCSIRRON. If you have any questions about anything game design or game related, I'm always happy to have a conversation about it. We've been the Adventure Mechanics. We'll hope to see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
The intro and outro music are excerpts from Flinian, retro gaming version, royalty free. Music provided and produced by Lone Peak Music. Link in the description.